Hey everyone, Netz RG here, and welcome to a brand new series on the channel. In these videos, I'll be documenting the progress on my long-term technical survival world, Farfania v6. Now, a little bit of backstory. I've been playing Minecraft for 15 years, and I started this specific world about 5 years ago. I haven't played consistently though, it's been more on and off. But even with that sporadic playstyle, I've managed to build some massive projects. The downside? Well, you know how it is. This has led to a world full of half-finished builds, broken farms, and a ton of scattered ideas. I just kept jumping to whatever new project excited me at the time. But that changes now. The goal of this series is to finally tie up all those loose ends. We're going to fix what's broken, finish what we started, and of course, dive headfirst into a bunch of new projects I have planned. Let's get this world sorted out. So right now, we're standing in front of a very special project called SBZ4L2. The concept here is pretty straightforward. I decided to pay tribute to one of my favorite albums by completely flattening this entire area down to bedrock and creating a giant pixel art piece. I've been working on this project for over 6 months, and I'm at a critical point right now. The build itself is done, but I still need to protect the entire thing with glass. The reason is simple. If a lightning storm hits and sets any flammable block on fire, this entire project would burn to the ground with no way to recover it. So finishing this glass casing is a top priority. Thankfully, I'm on the verge of finally completing it, so let's get it done. I've absolutely loved how this project is turning out, and I think it's going to look even more incredible once it's fully finished. However, for now, I'll have to put it on hold because there are more urgent things to tackle in this world. We'll save the final touches for a future episode, but for now, enjoy these last views. Once that critical task is done, I'd like to move on to this pending project I've been wanting to finish for a while, flattening more land. As you can see, there's still this massive area left to flatten, and the problem is I'm completely out of grass blocks. The reason is that I cleared this entire zone using quarry machines, unlike the other areas I flattened by hand, so I didn't collect any natural grass blocks from here. I have to gather them from other areas manually, since in this version, 1.16.5, we don't have access to dirt or grass farms. To get all this grass, I've had to create areas like this one, where I strip the top layer of grass to collect as much as possible. Thanks to this method, I've managed to flatten a lot of land, but there's still a long way to go. Before starting another zone, I want to finish flattening this part by hand. Then, I can clear a new area and use those dirt blocks for future projects. So, let's get started. It might seem contradictory to be clearing out some areas of dirt just to use it for flattening others, but in the end, I think it's the right approach. This way, I'm gradually leveling huge sections of the world. Of course, doing it manually is tedious, but it's actually very relaxing for me. I usually do this while listening to music or having a series playing in the background. And honestly, this area is pretty small compared to some of the other ones I've flattened. Also, if you notice any issues with the replay mod throughout the video, I want to apologize. I don't have a powerful computer, and exporting videos is a real struggle. I promise I'll try to improve this in future episodes. I finally finished mining out this entire section by hand, a task that you just saw in a few seconds, but in reality, it took me weeks. It might seem boring compared to building a mega project or a huge farm, but these kinds of jobs are absolutely necessary in any large-scale technical world to shape the land exactly how you want it. Speaking of super tedious and boring tasks, an even bigger one is coming up, one that I'm honestly dreading, but it has to be done. Luckily for you, I'll show it in super fast forward. This task involves collecting all the shulker boxes I've left scattered around the world and depositing them in my main storage system. It's a gigantic amount of materials that I have to sort and put away by hand. My storage system could filter it, but it would take way too long, so it's better if I just sort it myself. It's incredible how much time these logistics take, but it's part of technical survival, and in a way, it has its own magic. These are the things you don't see behind the mega projects in the game, but only we know the struggle. I love this game so much, and my world is my way of expressing that love. No matter how much time passes, whether I'm at work or in school, even if I have to cancel plans just to focus on a project, you keep playing because of that passion. I feel like I've poured a part of myself into this world, and when I die, I'd like my friends and family to visit it. I think it would be a great way to remember me, because my essence is here. This is something I put a lot of effort into, and it has been with me through different stages of my life. I started it in secondary school, went through all of high school with it, it's with me now in university, and it's even accompanying me as I start my working life. Sometimes I look at builds I made years ago, and I feel like I'm looking at my past self. That's how special this world is to me, and that's why I'm making this series. That's why I'm putting so much effort into these videos, even having to learn how to edit and record gameplay, even though I know they might not get many views or be a success. I'm doing all this to show, even if just to a few people, how much I love this game. Okay, maybe I got a bit sentimental there. My apologies. Let's move on to the next task, which will be much more entertaining than this one. What comes next is to start clearing out another area of dirt so we can flatten the zone I already showed you. This time, it's this small central area here, which will be the starting point for connecting my main storage hub to the new stadium I'm working on. The first phase is to clear all the trees from the area. I'll be using flint and steel for this, since doing it by hand is too tedious and I don't need the wood anyway. I have a good tree farm. The second phase is to remove these leftover sections and mark the entire outline of what I want to excavate. I'll try to do it in a more natural shape so the empty space doesn't look too bad while I work on flattening the entire zone later. The third phase is to clear out all the remaining blocks we don't want, and that can't be removed with a shovel, like solid stone blocks or leftover tree debris. The fourth and final phase will be to excavate this entire area completely by hand. This is to avoid any mistakes and also to relax a bit after so many intensive projects over the last few months. And done. This area is now completely cleared. With all the dirt and grass blocks we collected, I'm finally ready to start working on the other zone. But before that, I want to apologize. As I've mentioned, my computer isn't very powerful, and I've had to use my MacBook Air, which really struggles with mods like Replay Mod. The time lapses for these areas turned out very poorly. I tried exporting them multiple times, but they kept coming out with the same errors. It's really frustrating, knowing how much work went into flattening this huge area, but there's nothing I can do about it right now. I'll try to fix this in future episodes, but for now, this is how it has to be. So this entire zone is finally finished. Only one part was recorded correctly. Most of it wasn't. But looking on the bright side, I finally managed to clear this area completely, so we can move forward with many new projects in the future. And to top off the replay mod issues, it seems the entire time-lapse of me placing all the dirt blocks in this zone got corrupted, so nothing was recorded. Then again, it was a small area, so you didn't miss much. After all those tedious tasks, let's move on to something much more entertaining. For a while now, my system for duplicating and obtaining concrete has been a bit broken. I have a decent TNT duper, but it tends to break often, and changing the block I want to duplicate has to be done manually. I also have a terrible item collection system, and I currently don't have a proper concrete converter. I used to have one, but it broke, and even then, it was very inefficient. It was manual and broke down too much. So, in this video, I'm going to fix this entire system in 3 steps. The first step is to build a new TNT duplicator. In terms of production, it might be similar to the current one, but it's less likely to break, and most importantly, it's much more convenient because it features an automatic block selector. This selector will allow me to change the block I want to duplicate automatically. The second step is to build a much more complex concrete converter in the overworld. This machine has 2 modes, one that lets regular blocks pass through, like normal concrete powder, or blocks such as gravel, sand, or red sand, and another mode that transforms the concrete powder into solid concrete and drains it. This mode will allow the 180,000 items generated by the duper to be converted into concrete instantly without any loss. This will be a huge benefit for my world. The third and final step is to build a self-sorting storage system. This storage is capable of automatically boxing all the production from the concrete converter into shulker boxes without the need for manual filters since it configures itself. This is vital because if I used a filter for every material being stored, it would require a massive storage system and would generate constant lag, especially since we're in the spawn chunks. Before we begin, I need to remove the old duplicator in the end to use its materials for this new project. I'll also remove this small update suppression machine that I no longer use to make the most of its materials too. Now, with all the materials back at the main base, let's start with the first step, the new duplicator. First, I need to gather all the required materials, which honestly aren't that many compared to other farms I've built. Now that I have everything, let's begin the construction in the end. The 3 designs I'm using for these 3 steps aren't my own. I had to get them from other sources. To be honest, I'm not a great redstone engineer. I can handle simple things, but creating such complex and highly efficient mechanisms is beyond my current skill level. It's something I'd like to improve, but I know it's a long process, and I'd need to dive deeper into the topic. For now, I just enjoy my survival world. As you can see, it's finished, so let's check for any errors. It seems there's a small issue with the selector. It's changing the blocks incorrectly, but I fixed this relatively quickly. It was a minor mistake with a few repeater ticks. Now it's solved. Let's test the duper itself. And of course, there's also an error here. This one was a bit harder to find, but it also came down to a few mistimed ticks and some components perhaps placed correctly but not in the right order. In the end, I fixed it. It just took a few more tests to confirm, and that's it. Step 1 is now complete. Let's move quickly to the second step, the concrete converter. It's a fairly complex design to build for a player like me, but let's take on the challenge. Here is the material list. Nothing too unusual, and I have most, if not all, of the items already in my storage system. It's just a matter of collecting them. This storage system of mine presents a conflict. It's massive and helps me store everything I need, but I feel I could build something better, something more complex that can store everything in shulkers or generate less lag by not having so many chests. But for now, it works, though I wouldn't be surprised if I remodel it into something more advanced in the future. The only thing I was missing were these corals, but I can get them quickly here. Now, with all the materials ready, let's start the construction. The main challenge with this concrete converter for me is its location. Since it only works with a constant flow of falling blocks, it can only be built in the spawn chunks, and in my spawn chunks, it ruins the aesthetic I was going for, as it completely clashes. At the same time, I consider it a necessary evil. I can't focus solely on aesthetics, I have to prioritize the technical side, since, after all, this is a technical survival world. Now, let's talk about a terrible mistake I made. Not fully understanding the mechanism, I assumed I could test the concrete converter without using the duper, just by placing the blocks manually. However, this was completely incorrect, as it requires a constant flow of falling blocks for the TNT to sync properly. This didn't happen, and the TNT completely destroyed the machine. This was incredibly frustrating and upsetting, as the build was quite complex. But I didn't want to cut it from the video, as I also want to show this side of technical survival. These things happen often, and the only option is to start over. And that's exactly what I did. I rebuilt the machine immediately, now armed with this knowledge. Unfortunately, I didn't record it out of fear that it might break again if I was building it wrong, but it turned out the issue wasn't the construction, but the testing method. So now, let's test it properly. That's just how it is. You fall down, and you have to get right back up, because the machinery doesn't stop, and you need to keep feeding it. As you can see, the mode that lets the blocks fall without modifying them works perfectly. Now let's test the second mode. And as you can see, it works flawlessly. No sync errors and no material loss. It transforms the powder into concrete perfectly and drains it just as well. I'm very proud to have this system working properly after so much struggle. Finally, let's move on to Phase 3. Phase 3 is probably the simplest of them all. For this, I explored several filter designs and finally settled on this one by Andrews 54757. As I mentioned in the explanation, I chose it because it's self-configuring, which is key to reducing lag. How it works is quite simple. When items are thrown in, regardless of the material, they fall into these hoppers. The hoppers look like a normal filter, but have a few key differences. All the materials absorbed by the hoppers end up in these shulker boxes. The self-configuring part happens thanks to a clock mechanism at the back here. This clock detects when the hoppers stop absorbing new materials. Once the filter detects that no more items are entering the system, the clock starts a countdown and empties itself. Once empty, the filter transfers everything to the shulker, and the shulker simply gets broken. This system is perfect for what I need because, as I mentioned, I don't have to create a separate filter for every material. This helps reduce lag in the spawn chunks, and it's also great because all materials, regardless of whether the shulker is full or if it contains the same item or not, will be broken by the clock once the countdown finishes. So that's a quick explanation. Maybe it wasn't perfectly clear, but I tried my best. Now, let's head into the world and build it. I've decided to build it inside this hot air balloon from the decor. As you can see, it fits perfectly. I think it makes sense to use this small space for something that isn't too visually impressive. Before we build and gather the materials, we need to clear out the entire old system I had. This is to make space for the new one and also to reuse its materials. Once that was done, we were left with these tedious chests full of shulker boxes. These shulkers contain a huge amount of unfiltered concrete powder, which will have to move to the main storage and sort manually before starting the construction. Another super tedious process, but I thought it was necessary since sometimes I need concrete or concrete powder and don't have any readily available in the main storage. But don't worry, you'll see this part in fast forward. I've also already gathered the materials for the build. Compared to the previous machines, it's not many, and I collected them quickly. Before we start, I'm going to place these white glowing walls because the area is too dark and I need more light to work comfortably. Alright, now let's begin the construction. This design was somewhat simple, but I had a bit of trouble syncing the clocks since I couldn't find a tutorial. Oh well, it was just a matter of trial and error until each mechanism finally worked independently. The self-sorting filter is now complete. All that's left is to fill it with plenty of shulker boxes so we don't have to worry about it in the future. And there you go. As you can see, it works perfectly. It absorbs all the items, filters them, and stores them in shulkers with the clocks functioning flawlessly. I built this filter with a length of 20 hoppers because the duper produces 180,000 items per hour, and a single hopper can absorb 9,000 items per hour. If we do the math, the hoppers absorb the perfect amount without any losses. The final step is to connect all the systems with this small water stream, which will move all the materials perfectly. Lastly, I'll run a few quick tests with the duper and concrete converter running at 100%. And as you can see here, the shulkers are perfectly sorted. So there we go. We've finally completed all 3 steps. This entire system will be a huge help in my survival world for future projects. I won't have to worry about these blocks ever again. To wrap up the episode, I'll just add a little decoration to the hot air balloon. I have to admit, I'm not great at decorating, but I did the best I could. These are the materials we'll need, so let's get to building. It's a relatively simple decoration, but as I mentioned, I'm not good at decorating at all. Still, I felt this space needed a more illuminated touch, and the episode deserved it. And that's it, guys. The first episode of this series has officially come to an end. It's been a very productive one where I managed to progress a lot of things. I apologize for all the technical issues. I'll really try to ensure those replay mod errors don't happen again. It would mean a lot if you could like and subscribe, as this is practically a new channel with very little reach. Your support would motivate me to keep uploading more episodes, as they take a lot of time to produce. That's all for now. Thank you very much.